whenever I wanted to talk to... No longer necessary. Sergeant Paul lets me into his windowless cave even without a password. You have to be a certain type of person to want to volunteer in this room day after day. But I think for Sergeant Paul, this is his own personal idea of paradise. It's nice to meet someone who loves their job dearly for a change. This is Sergeant Paul. He's the tech pro and surveillance specialist for this precinct. His watchful eye ensures there is a high-definition video recording of every purse snatcher in the city. You have to be a certain, but I think for some... Is that the Oval Office in the White House? This is surely just a screensaver. I think that what was shown on one of these monitors was so controversial that someone silenced the monitor as an unwelcome witness with a well-aimed shot. I wonder where the camera was mounted on Mars. Or is this, like the moon landing back then, also just a studio recording? I wonder if Orwell had this scenario in mind with his novel 1984. Lots of surveillance monitors. It's a bit like Netflix. I can never decide what I want to watch and often wish I had a binge-watching multitasking skill. The TV program's diverse, only the action leaves a little to be desired. May I interrupt again for a moment?
Yes, what's up? Captain Paulie is always happy to help.
About the traffic camera in front of Ricky's pet salon again?
Yes, what about it?
Could I have a look at the surveillance video, please?
Sure thing, no problem. Please give me the A38 form for the release and I'll find the recordings for you.
Form A38? I don't have that with me at the moment. Isn't it enough if I bring the form by later? It would be really important that that Inspector Craddock get a look at the surveillance videos.
Sorry, I know you're new here, but rules are rules. Without Form A38, no release of the videos. The world would be in chaos if we didn't have these rules. And you certainly don't want the world to descend into chaos, do you?
I guess not.
That's what I thought. So go ask Inspector Craddock for said form and I'll release the videos.
Alright, see you in a minute.
Good. I'll rewind the videotapes so that we don't lose any time later. Can Captain Paulie help you with anything else?
Captain Paulie of the Starship Paulie then?
Yes. How can Captain Paulie help you?
Well, I think I'd be interested in how Captain Paulie became Captain Paulie. And why his spaceship is named the same as he is. And why he speaks of himself in the third person.
You see them, too? All those colourful lights, right?
The cameras and monitors? I guess so.
And you hear them, too? Those beeps, whirs and whistles?
Quite. After all, it can't be ignored.
And what does all this remind you of?
Good question. Possibly of my microwave when I warm up my cereal?
Nonsense. The bridge of a spaceship, of course. The bridge of the legendary Starship Enterprise.
Now that you mention it... Yeah! Absolutely!
And who commands the bridge of a spaceship?
Captain Paulie?
Right. Captain Paulie.
Could it be that Captain Paulie has been doing this job for quite a long time?
That's right. This year it will be 13 years. 13 years of blinking, beeping, whirring and whistling. 13 years without windows. 13 years without oxygen. 13 years of 12 cans of Red Bull a day. And 13 years of Starship Enterprise on continuous loop on Monitor 7.
But doesn't Captain Paulie have an important function here?
Absolutely. Day in, day out, Captain Paulie stares at the monitors of his spaceship, always on the lookout for crooks and cutthroats.
So like Batman and his Batcave.
What is a Batman? Some movie? I only watch Starship Enterprise.
On Monitor 7.
Right.
I see. But back to the question of why this spaceship is named the same as its captain.
I guess that's the thing my police psychologist, Dr. Fletcher, told me was lack of creativity. However, I prefer to say because it rhymes so nicely.
Paulie also rhymes with Paulie.
Good, so you see it the same way.
I really don't think you should spend so much time alone in that room. That can't possibly be healthy.
You're probably right, but someone has to do this job. Captain Paulie keeps a watchful eye at all times on the good and not so good citizens and residents of this town.
That's comforting to know. I guess every city needs its Dark Knight watching over it. Or a Starfleet captain.
And Captain Paulie is proud of his service to the community. Even though Captain Paulie doesn't know if it's day or night right now. Can Captain Paulie help you with anything else?
Anything interesting observed lately?
Well, we are all being watched somehow and always at all times. It's fantastic. Surveillance cameras at every traffic light, camera drones in neighbours' yards, black helicopters in the sky. Surveillance is omnipresent.
You are certainly right. It was more of a technical question. Surely it's very satisfying to catch a criminal red-handed through a cleverly positioned camera.
You mean like the vandal who walked into the camera trap at the Longbottom estate and will soon be brought to justice?
Oh, excuse me? Was I? I mean, well, was he?
No.
Excuse me?
That is exactly the point I was trying to make. Cameras are never placed where they would really make sense. Had there been a camera on the tall fir tree across the driveway from the Longbottom estate, the brutal Chihuahua thief would have been caught in the act. But this was not the case.
Thank God.
Excuse me? What's good about it? The professional kidnapper is still on the run, and tomorrow he could add your beloved pet to his collection. No, there's nothing good about it at all. The solution is not less surveillance, the solution is more surveillance. To avoid tempting such crooks in the first place.
Sounds kinda excessive to me.
I get it. When I was your age, I was as naive as you. But first, do the job as long as I have. 13 years in a windowless room, 13 years without oxygen, 13 years...
Of 12 cans of Red Bull a day?
Right, yes. Then you see things a little differently too. And look at it this way. What did nature create big trees like the ones at the Longbottom's estate for? If not for placing a high-resolution camera on its top. How majestic must the view be from up there? High resolution in 3840 by 2160 pixels.
Honestly, that still sounds quite exaggerated to me. And who says that Baron Longbottom's little darling was really kidnapped? The Longbottom's estate is huge, I heard. Maybe the little yapper is catching some mice somewhere at the far end of the property. Or flying bones.
But that's exactly the point. We don't know for sure. But we could know for sure. 5 cameras on the group of trees in front of the property, 12 cameras spread around the property, and another 4 or 5 free-floating camera drones above the property. It could be so simple, and would make the work of us law enforcement officers immensely easier.
Well, even though the whole thing still sounds a bit exaggerated to me, I think I'd better trust her professional opinion on this point.
And rightly so. But I'm well aware that my view of things is not the most popular. But if you've been robbed of your hard-served money the first 2 or 3 times while walking in the park with a knife at your throat, and then the 4th time Captain Paulie was able to catch the perpetrators in the act on one of his 12 monitors, then you will certainly thank Captain Paulie for his prudence. Even though you probably won't survive the 4th incident and will have to write your acceptance speech from the graveyard.
Oh, I think I'm starting to get it now.
Great! And remember, wherever you place a camera, they cannot place a camera. And that way, you stay in control at all times and don't have to worry about unauthorised surveillance.
Is that why there are so many cameras mounted here in the room? And also outside the door? Because you were worried about unauthorised surveillance.
Why do you ask this question? Do you think there are too few cameras? You could be right. Good point. I'll set up more cameras as soon as possible.
Unfortunately, I have no talent with soldering irons. Otherwise, it would clearly look the same on my desk. The soldering iron burn scar on my arm is still clearly visible. There's a lot of technical junk on the table. A circuit board of an old iPhone 3G and an ancient mini-tube TV. And I think that back there is part of a flux capacitor. I wonder what exciting things Sergeant Paul is putting together here. Unfortunately, I have no talent with soldering irons. Otherwise, it would clearly look the same on my desk. This screwdriver is designed for those exotic Phillips screws found in some modern electronic devices. When I tinker with my computer, I always end up burying these screws in the computer's case, never to be seen again. Very annoying.
Will you please leave that alone? These are confidential documents only for the use of officers of this precinct.
Whoops! That's not the new Spider-Man comic?
Hey, hands off my pen. You can kiss your career at the police academy goodbye if you have to spend several years in prison for stealing a pen.
Oh, that's a misunderstanding. I just wanted to align the pen perfectly with the symmetry of the table. Crap, I think it's now even more broken than before. Well, at least I was able to save one of the microchips. Great! The chip fits like a glove.